Hey, welcome to the page, guys. Once again, welcome to the biggest agricultural platform in Namibia, which is called Indunawe Ngombe, which means in English, the headman of cattle. My name, of course, is Mitchell Mutumba Simata, aka the Induna of cattle. So today I want to talk on a breed that I've had the luxury of working on in the communal areas. Growing up, this was the only breed of cattle I knew. This one. I didn't know any other breed. I knew this one. And where I grew up, we didn't call it Nguni. They said Sanga cattle. But I never really understood why they were called Sanga. And then when I moved from the communal areas coming a bit to this commercial side, I saw some people breeding them, but they didn't call them Ngunis. They called them Sangas. I mean, they didn't call them Sangas, they called them Ngunis. And I was like, what is a Nguni? What is this term? Nguni, Sanga, Nguni? What is it? This is a Sanga or a Nguni? Then I realized that the term that is used, the term that is collectively used for indigenous cattle, the indigenous cattle in the southern part of Africa is Sanga. And we use that's the term used collectively for all cattle breeds that are indigenous to the southern part of Africa, the Sadic part. We call them Sanga cattle. But they have different names. In South Africa, they call them the Nguni cattle. In Lesotho, they call them Bopedi. In Zimbabwe, they would say these are Mashona cattle. In Botswana, they would say Tswana cattle. In Namibia, we would say Sanga, which are the or Mashona. As I said, Mashona in Zimbabwe. These are the different names that we have for them. Afrikaners, Bosmaras, Drakensbergs, Tulis could also be classified as Sanga cattle or Sanga phenotype. As I said, the term Sanga is usually it's how we describe cattle of the southern part of Africa. So a full-grown Nguni bull would weigh about 500 to 800 kilograms. A cow would weigh about 300 to 480 kilograms. When you raise weaners of Ngunis, these animals wean at approximately 175 and grow on an average rate of 0.70 per day until weaning weight. Ngunis are known for being able to produce kilograms and being able to produce weight per hectare, beating out any other breeds. Nguni cattle are heat and sunlight tolerant and have thick pigment skin cover, and skin cover, with a fine short hair of different textures, which would either be different textures of colors, different mixtures of colors, which would either be white and black. They could come in brown or you can say red and white, or they could come in brown with white spots. So the spotted breed of Africa. That's your Nguni cattle. I have some notes on them here. They say, okay, as I mentioned, one of the advantages of Nguni cattle is that with these animals are known to really put on kilograms per hectare. They are not really large grazers. One conversion one Nguni breeder gave me was on a farm in a camp where you can put 10 Ngunis, you'd probably only be able to run about 6 or 7 full-grown Simmental cattle. So because of their small frame, they're able to convert large or small pieces of land and convert convert grazing into good beef. And also because of their natural selection. Remember, this breed, we didn't really cross it to look like this. I think there was some crossing, but it was mostly done this through natural selection of survival of the fittest, which means nature did its selection and designed this animal to look this way as it looks today. So because of that, it reduces the costs of running and maintaining, the maintenance cost. When you are maintaining cattle such as your other breeds, you might have to buy extra feed in times of drought. You also have to do with these guys, but they are cattle that can what is the street slang would say, they can be able to push a panda, Zama, to Zabalas, to Zula. They are able to Zula. So one negativity you'd have if you want to farm Nguni cattle is you'd find that a lot of auctions do not want Nguni cattle, or a lot of feedlots do not want Nguni cattle. They have a problem with Nguni cattle because these animals, as I said, win at about 175, while other breeds are winning at 356 kilograms, are winning at around about there. So they are not really desired at feedlots. But if you're going into Guni breeding, you might have to consider producing slaughter auctions. Might have to produce slaughter auctions, sell them to Meatco. Slaughter auction, you can probably get better prices than trying to produce winners, because they are not really the most sought after for feedlots. You know, another advantage of Ngunis is that they are very good. You'd call them very good graze managers. Graze managers. What I mean about that, unlike the larger European breeds, large frame animals that might go into a camp and outgraze it. These animals cannot really completely outgraze a camp. So because of their small frame and because of their diets, this is an animal that can go from grazing to browsing. So you can run it on a farm that is grassland and also thorn bush farm. It will perform quite well. So it can switch its diet between what it's required to eat, and it can also convert very low quality grazing into good quality meat. Low quality grazing into good quality meat. Another advantage of Nguni is that you can use it in a crossbreeding program, but using cows. But if you're going to crossbreed it with large European or American breed cattle, you might have to consider cows that have given birth before, maybe once or twice before you put probably a heavier Simmental on it, because you want to avoid calving problems. Or what you can do is when you're bringing the Simmental bull, you can talk to the breeder of the Simmental bull and tell them that you want a Simmental bull that can be put on heifers. You're planning to use it probably on an indigenous Sangha or Nguni cattle. So you can be able to speak to them about that. Breeding life cycle, these animals have a very long breeding life cycle. These animals in their lifetime would have given birth to 10 or more calves. And would be able to win these calves at a percentage of about 45 to 50% of the mother's body weight. This is a bull, by the way. Nguni cattle are not really known for calving problems, but it can happen if you are putting a very big bull on it. Like, I think Simmental's birthing weight is about 45 kilograms, while Nguni is about 22.9 or 22.7 kilograms. That is the birthing weight of Nguni. So you wanna crossbreed, but you also wanna make sure that you're crossbreeding properly when you're using them. You don't wanna put an animal that has about a 45 kilogram birthing weight, while its birthing weight is about 22. You can probably look at introducing, like I said, asking the farmer for a Simmental bull asking the farmer for a bull which is an all-rounder that can be put on Nguni cattle, whether it's cow or heifer, and also has a very low birthing weight. You want to avoid birthing problems when you are starting up your beef production. As I've mentioned before, for every calf that dies, that's money out of your pocket. So your biggest mission is to be able to get cattle that will be able to give birth and raise their calves. But these are actually very excellent mothers. I've seen strange story I can tell you of back in the communal land, in the communal areas, in the NCA, the northern communal areas. In the Zambezi, we had a hyena problem. Yeah, hyena problem. We had a hyena problem. And now, sometimes our cows, because we herd our cattle, we'd walk with our cattle, they'd go out grazing, drink, walk, graze. When time is over, they go home. They're very intelligent, actually. The Ngunis, I believe, are a very intelligent breed of cattle, because these are one of the few cattle breeds that I myself had the luxury of herding, and I didn't really know the area. So they would walk deep into the bush, they're far, and sometimes you don't know what you find. You don't know where you're going deep, and they're just going, grazing. We'd always put one with the bell. She would lead the herd, graze. After grazing, she would turn around and lead the herd back home. So sometimes I really didn't have to worry. If the cattle are old animals that have lived in our area for a while, they know the area very well and they know their way back home. If it's new cattle that have just arrived today, you might have problems. But they're very intelligent. I used to study this. They used to always, whenever I used to herd with them, I would be walking with my big walking stick and my kiri here and my bottle of water and sometimes a cap because it's hot and some good comfortable shoes. And I'd walk behind them. And they would lead me out to the field where they go graze. When it's starting to get a bit late, 4, 5, 6 o'clock-ish, they would start taking themselves back home. And I'll just walk behind them. Fortunately, we never really had dangerous wildlife in the area. Or they were, but they weren't really there at that time. But back to the story that I was saying. We had a Nguni cow that gave birth in the field. And sometimes you notice when a cow is about to give birth, she moves herself away from the herd. So she gave birth in the field. And then after giving birth in the field, because when birthing is happening, there's a lot of blood, and blood attracts predators, and predators would come. We heard at night hyenas making so much noise. And you know when hyenas find meat, or they have found meat, or they have found a dead animal, the noise they make when they come together eating, it's a loud noise. It's just a real sound. You won't really believe it when you hear it. We thought, we probably lost one of our cows. But when we went and investigated, when we went early morning, because we woke up like at 4:30, we went to go find her. We found about 2-3 dead hyenas lying next to her, because she was kicking and she was stabbing them with her horns, and she kept her calf right in between herself, in between her legs. The calf was just staying right there. So I was like, yo. So they're very good mothers. They're very good mothers with good temperament, but are very protective. They will really kill a lion or kill a hyena for their calf. Those horns aren't just there for decoration. These animals know how to use these horns. But also, another bad story I have of a Nguni cow is when we had one cow that had given birth to a young calf. Sorry, she once chased me. She chased me, I literally, because we build our kraals with acacia thorn bush, because they need to be easy to move, or we need to be easier to just dismantle it, move our cattle to another place once it starts raining, and that manure, because remember the cows sleep in a holding pen, so they produce so much of this manure. So because they sleep in the holding pen, we have to be able to move them. So we don't put permanent structures, we use acacia thorn. So once this cow had given birth, the calf was still very young, and they kick into overprotection mode, and she had some big, beautiful, big curvy horns. She chased me. I ended up diving inside the acacia thorn, inside the kraal, but I got through. I jumped in, and I got out on the other side. That's how I know they're very good mothers. Another plus of also farming Ngunis is that you can farm them in an area where you have a tick problem. Where some breeds might succumb to tick illnesses, this is a breed that can tolerate and sometimes resistant to it, because remember, it has been bred in Africa and has survived in Africa and has been able to naturally adapt and build natural resistance against ticks. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't do your dips, because you still have to do your dips, particularly on the tail, underneath the tail area, in the rectum area there. The ticks like sitting there, or here at the shelf area in that hair, they like sitting in there. So, and at the testicle. So you still need to do that, even though the animals would not show any illness, but you still need to do it as to avoid losing your animal. Sometimes they could succumb to this and have mortality rates. As I mentioned, very excellent foragers. These are animals that can switch their diet from grazing grass to actually starting to eat some thorn bushes and thorn twigs. This is why you'd find Nguni cattle being found in areas where other breeds would suffer. They survive. It's like your old which engine can I say? It's like your old Isuzu diesel engine. Or should I say it's like your old Land Cruiser, 1994, 16 valve, 450, 4.5 engine. That you take it to any part of SADC, whatever type of grazing condition is there, and it performs. This is what the Nguni cattle are, and this is why a lot of farmers that farm in very difficult areas where most breeds might suffer, they would rather have Nguni cows or have a Nguni bull and put it on some American or European breeds, just to help those F1 cows born out of them to be able to adapt and adjust to a certain condition. So this is something that you want to look at when you are farming this breed. Or you can run it you can run it as a pure breed, but you might struggle with winners, because this is not the breed of winners that people want. What they want is usually the animals that can hit about 365 kilograms. These are now your American and European breeds, and this is why this breed has fell out of favor. But it's making a comeback because the agricultural environment is changing. As you are realizing, the climate is changing. It's getting drier. Sometimes we have good rain, sometimes we don't have good rain. So this breed still stays up there with a lot of farmers, that it's an animal that can adjust quite well. I know in countries like South Africa, when you receive a resettlement farm in South Africa, when you are put on state-owned land by the South African government, a state farm, they give you Nguni cattle. Because of what makes them so sought after, as I said, their longevity. Nguni cow would be known to have given birth about 10 calves and have raised about 10 calves and could be calving for a longer period of time. Bulls are also known for their good fertility. So it's a very good fertile animal. You won't really have bulls that shoot blanks. They're known for their fertility. And this is why the South African Department of Agriculture prefers to give their resettlement farmers Nguni cattle. And I don't know about Namibia, but in Namibia with us, they are very popular with various research stations. And there is actually a number of Nguni breeders in Namibia. But why they might not be as popular as your Brahman, your Simmental, your Bosmara, your Simbra, is due to the fact that, and I remember I spoke to their society and I told them, you guys need to advertise and work on the advantages of your breed. There is the negative of small size and not being wanted by feedlots, but I'm sure it has a lot to offer. And they said they would. So I'm still waiting to see them really push this breed, because it's a breed that you wouldn't really go to an agricultural show, whether it is in South Africa, Namibia, Botswana, or any part of SADC where ngunis are farmed. You wouldn't find them at a show, because it goes against their breeding policy. Oh, not so long ago, this breed actually fetched the highest price for a nguni bull in South Africa. I think was it a mil? I think it fetched $1 million. If you know the million, was it for 400 and somewhere there? It fetched a big number. I can't really recall how much it was. Oh, the highest price that was sold for nguni bull, the previous price was 197,000, and the next price that was sold for this bull was about 310,000 in South Africa. This is the prices you get in South Africa. I don't know what are the prices in Namibia though. I don't know if nguni is fetching 300,000 here in Namibia. I haven't heard of it, but in South Africa, it's a sought after breed. It's got a very good society. It's got a very good supporter base there, so people buy them and are willing to spend the cash. In Namibia, we're still struggling, but I believe we'll one day get there to the level where we can start getting 300, 400, $1 million for a nguni bull. So that is my experience with this breed, the African breed, the nguni, which is the cousin to the Boran, the Drakensbergs, so many other African breeds, the Tuli. These are the ngunis. As I said, the multi-pattern cattle. Some of you might notice the nguni skin, because it's used by one of the most famous tribes in Africa, which is the Zulu tribe. They use nguni skin to make their shields. And not just that, it's a breed that is enshrined with a lot of African cultures and traditions. You would hear in certain traditions that certain homes or certain traditional homes, totem would be a nguni bull, but it would probably be a nguni bull, a nguni with this black pattern. So all their crawl would be nguni cattle with this pattern, no other patterns. You would always find that in African folklore, in African traditional history, and also family history. You would hear that we are, for example, the Simatas. This is our color. This is how our cattle, this is the color our cattle should be that enter our kraal. Our ancestors only accept this color. And if we slaughter, we only eat cattle, we only eat meat of cattle that come from such a pattern. So those are some of the interesting stories you'd hear that this breed, African, our SADC breed, the Sanga or the Nguni, depending what you want to call it, or the Pedi, or the Mashona, or the Tswana breed of cattle. It is enshrined in a lot of our traditions and our customs. So those are my 2 cents on this breed, guys. I hope you guys have a good Friday. I want to ask you guys once again to like the video, subscribe to the page. Let's push this page. Okay, I've said I want 1,000 subscribers, but let's get it to at least 200 subscribers. I'm targeting the 200 number. The 1,000 is the biggest number we're targeting for. So do me a favor. Smash that subscription button. Smash that like button. It helps in getting the video out there with a lot of people. For now, guys, enjoy your Friday. Enjoy your Friday on this payday, and don't do anything crazy. So I salute you guys. Enjoy this weekend. Bye for now.